Welcome to Scale Your Empire, the podcast that elevates your business game. Meet your guides to greatness. Your hosts, Darshan and Rejin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Scale Your Empire. And we have a very special guest today, Lyn Askin, coming all the way from the US. Great to have you, Lyn. And just a quick background of Lyn before we move forward. So Lyn has been building businesses and helping people to build their websites and everything else which comes with websites for over 26 years. Wow, that's probably when the websites even began to happen. So you've been building websites since then. And since then, you've been coaching businesses, helping people to build their business. And just recently, you are a certified EOS implementer. And EOS seems to be the go-to place these days for entrepreneurs to really systemize and scale their business. So then we're really looking forward to the chat. And most of our audience are looking to scale their business and systemize the business and eventually even exit the business. So I think you're a perfect person to talk about systemizing. So welcome and thanks for coming on today.
Really excited to be here. I'm so happy to be here.
Lyn, we're going to start off with some of your, we normally talk about scaling businesses and the challenges which comes with that. So we want to get into the EOS, but before we do that, just a couple of questions about your experience in scaling businesses. So in early days, like, when you go back to 26 years ago, when you were trying to scale your website business, what were those early things which really stopped you from scaling? And which probably you could have scaled the business quicker, but you took an extra time to do that. What was stopping you in the early days?
Yeah, I started one of the first online auctions in 1996. I built an online auction. It was the same year that that eBay hired their first employee. So I was ahead of the curve, and I had a great vision, and I had ideas and things that I could, it's not that I could see the future, but I could see a place where the internet was going to be a place where e-commerce and transactions occurred. And we had the foresight to build one of the first online auctions. Now, the challenge, I guess, with that is, with technology and things like that is, as the visionary, I didn't have all of the skills I needed to grow my business. I think we all start our businesses because we have a love for something. Maybe we even have a good idea, and maybe we start to build something, we start to scale and grow, and then maybe it actually works. And then you start to realize that you can't do it alone. And I think that was one of my biggest challenges is actually sort of letting go of the vine and really allowing someone else to kind of, take some of my tasks on. And so if you've read the book E-Myth Revisited, it's a great story in there about a business who tried to scale. And man, I felt like the first time I read that book, I felt like the book was totally written about me. And it was really just about the first thing you do is basically you end up hiring somebody to do something that you don't like to do. So I hired a bookkeeper, and then next thing you know, my bookkeeper's like, man, we need some more help. And next thing you know, she's doing sales and she's answering the phone. And next thing you know, you don't really recognize your company anymore. And so I think some of the challenges that we face as business owners or entrepreneurs is, one, you may have a great vision, but they don't really teach you how to run a small business in school. I didn't go to college, but even, if you were to go to business school, a lot of that is built around corporate America and things like that, and the big sort of conglomerate businesses. And there's really nothing there to help a small business owner understand how to build and scale and operate a small business.
100%. I love what you said about delegating. So that's what you're talking about. And we find that this is the biggest challenge for early entrepreneurs, where they want to do everything themselves and they don't want to delegate. So any tips on young entrepreneurs who are struggling to delegate? What do you think would be, your mindset on that part of things?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to think about this. Obviously, Dan Sullivan from Strategic Coach talks about your unique ability, and it talks about you should be doing the things that are uniquely your ability, and you should be delegating everything else. And so in EOS, we have tools around delegate and elevate. It's one of the things that we talk about a lot. And it's really about defining the things that you should be doing, the things that you love to do, the things that you're great at, maybe even the things that you're pretty good at and that you like doing, and then delegating those things that either you're not very good at and you don't like to do, or maybe you're stuck doing things that you don't like to do, but you are actually good at those things. And so in EOS, one of the tools that we use is called Delegate and Elevate. We map out all of the things that we do in a typical week, the good, the bad, the ugly, the embarrassing, and we plot it all out in sort of a quadrant of, these are the things that I love to do and I'm great at. These are the things that I like to do and I'm good at. And those two bottom rows, the things that I don't like to do, but I'm still good at, and the things that I don't like to do that I'm not good at all, we list all those out. We want to delegate and get those things off your plate as soon as humanly possible.
Wow. I really love the tool, especially the way that you have explained it. It's going to add so much value, Lyn. When people try to build our businesses, right, we make some mistakes, we go through some hurdles and challenges. So tell us a bit more about what were some of the biggest mistakes that you made when you were scaling your businesses, and what were some of the learnings? What do you get to learn from them?
Oh my gosh. In a career of 26 years, there's been a lot of mistakes. I think that's normal for an entrepreneur. I think we're very resilient. I think we have to be. I think we have to take risks. We're risk takers. We are the driver of economies. We take chances. We're risk takers. We're not the safe, let's just get a job and stay in, I guess we would call it corporate America. It's not a thing where you live, but you get the idea of just having a job and working there your whole life. Entrepreneurs are built a little differently. We're in a lot of ways, we're used to dealing with 136 issues simultaneously, and the challenges that come along with those. So mistakes that I've made along the way, man, there's so many. I'm not even sure where to start, but a lot of it is probably based around maybe fear and I don't know. I guess there's this whole thing around imposter syndrome, and where you're struggling to kind of learn something, you want to be really good at it, but in some ways you kind of feel like, man, I'm not as good at this as I want to be, and if I grow and scale, maybe the people are going to find out, And so I think there's kind of a concept there around, one of the things that I've kind of always said, and I talked about my clients about, is you have to make your business processes really, really solid, because nothing will kill a bad business faster than great marketing. So if your business isn't dialed in, but your marketing is really good, that can kill you really quickly. And you got to make sure that the things that you're doing really align with your core values. They really jive with who you are as a person. And quite frankly, they fit your, gosh, I guess core values is the right way to put it. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously there's a lot of challenges in growing a business. Some of the mistakes that maybe I made along the way were around finance, not really understanding finance, maybe not really understanding taxes and putting enough money away to pay those taxes when they came around year to year, maybe hiring some of the wrong team members on occasion. But honestly, maybe it's around developing my vision so that everybody can see it and understand where we're going, and maybe developing that plan on how we get there.
So much. Amazing, especially about the finances, because when you're growing the business, you tend to focus just on the sales and marketing aspect of it. But most entrepreneurs, sometimes they don't want to look at the finances because that's a non-sexy aspect of it, right? When you're trying to grow the business, you want to keep going towards the fun aspect of it. That's amazing, Lyn. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. What's the old joke? I'd rather check my Facebook than face my checkbook. Something like that. I don't know.
Wow.
Like
Love that.
I love that. Yeah, that's true.
That's a good one.
Before we get into the systemizing and EOS, Lyn, we just want to quickly talk about a couple of things: sales and marketing, and building team and culture. So sales and marketing. So obviously 26 years building business. I'm sure you have your own idea and systems on building a sales and marketing system and team. What is your take on it, and how do you build your sales and marketing strategy?
So there's a couple of things I want to talk about when we talk about sales and marketing. One, I think it's really important, and I've had a lot of people ask me this, like, hey, Lyn, if I wanted to start a business, what should I do? And my answer to them is always find a group of people that you love to work with, figure out what their biggest problem is, and solve it. And you'll never have to do sales again, right? You've got a solution to an incredible, you've solved a problem in an industry, in a niche, in a group of people. And so I think a lot of us try to develop this thing and then find a way to find a market for it. I like to look for a market, look for a problem, and then build the solution to that problem. It makes sales and marketing a lot easier. But when you do sales and marketing, I think it's really important to define your ideal client, the kind of people you would like to work with, their the geographic profile, their their demographic profile, their psychographic profile of the ideal target client. Because when we spend money in sales and marketing, it's expensive. And so we want to make sure that all of our sales and marketing energy and efforts and finance go to targeting the right ideal prospect. Now, the second part of that is identifying the correct message to that ideal prospect. So it's really important that you define your core focus on what it is you're great at, why you do what you do, and what you do better than anybody else. And on top of that, I think it's really important that you define what makes you different, what makes you unique. So in EOS, we help you in your marketing strategy. We help you define your three uniques, the three things that make you different and better than the competitors in the minds of the consumer.
Beautiful. I love that. Interesting you said to get the product right, and before you even go out to the market. That's pretty unique what you said there, because most people are trying to just straight away get into the market and start talking about the product, but the product is not solid yet. Yeah, I love that concept. So how do you, when you start a new business, what do you suggest entrepreneurs to do before they even get into the market? How do they get that right?
Yeah, and again, I think each of us has some experience in our life. We have groups of people that we enjoy working with. We have groups of people that we don't enjoy working with. I highly suggest you work with people that you love, that you like to work with. Whatever niche that might be. If you love working with doctors or lawyers, or
I'm actually going to change the question a little bit, and then so Lyn, I love what you mentioned about getting the product right and working with the right clients and right people. Why is that important for new entrepreneurs to understand, pick the right people and the right product?
Well, I think it's really important to have a product that serves a demand in the market. A lot of us try to create something that we hope there's demand for. But if you actually, find a group of people that you love to work with and dig in and figure out what their biggest problem is, and you solve that problem, then you've got built-in demand. And so it saves you a lot of time and effort trying to force feed your product into a market that you don't know exists. And so it's really important to me to meet the demand of the market that's out there versus trying to create demand for your product.
Yep, amazing. Lyn, while we were discussing, you did mention to us that you were able to 3x your sales and 7 times your profit. We're really keen to hear more about that. How did you go about doing that? Tell us some practical steps that we can take away from here.
What I'd really love to do is I'd love to tell you my story, and I'd love to kind of walk you through that whole journey, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
I grew up in eastern Montana. I lived in a really small town, lived in a really small old farmhouse, and my parents didn't have much. But they did, there was a lot of love in our house, just not a lot of money. And, and honestly, I think it made me entrepreneurial. I think it made me want to have more. And I think it made me want to stand on my own 2 feet. And so I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I had a paper route when I was 9 years old. I started a mobile disc jockey company in my teens. In my 20s, I started building computers. I think I told you I built one of the first online auctions in 1996. I launched an e-commerce store in 1997. And from that point forward, I started building websites for other businesses and have been doing it ever since. And over the last period of 20 or so years, I built a pretty nice marketing agency. But we had the same problems and challenges that everybody else have. We had a lack of clear vision about who we were and who we served. We maybe had a lack of commitment from the team. I felt like maybe some of the employees sort of had one foot in the door and one foot out, but I really think that was because of the lack of clear vision. And quite honestly, we probably had a lack of discipline and accountability all the way to the top. But despite all of that, I mean, we had a really, really good business. But in October of 2020, I got the wake-up call that nobody wants to get. I collapsed in my yard. I had a massive pulmonary embolism. And as I was laying there dying, all I could think about was, what kind of mess did I leave my wife and my son? I was just consumed by the thoughts of my wife having to go down to my office, fire all of our team, lose all of our clients, and lock the door. And that would have been my legacy. That would have been the mess that I left my wife and my son. Now, obviously, I'm still here, so thank God I survived. I'm still working on why I'm still here and how I survived that, but I'm still here. But over the next, it took me maybe 3 months to fully recover and even have enough energy to get back to work. But I knew that I had to change my business. I knew I had to change my life. My business at that point was killing me. The stress that I was under, the hours that I was working, the hours that I was spending sitting had directly contributed to my health problems. And so my first thought is, oh my gosh, I've got to sell this business. But I don't know if you guys know this or not, but you can't sell a job. So the business wasn't really a business. I owned a job and not a very good one at that. And so I went on a mission, and I went on a mission to build and scale my business and build a legacy for my family. I knew that I had to do something different. So I listened to a lot of podcasts, read a lot of books, read a great book called Exit Rich, listened to a podcast by Jason Swank and Joe Troyer. And Jason was talking in his podcast about he was buying agencies, and he was discussing what he looked for in an agency when he was going to acquire it. And the things that he'd listed, he said that he wanted that agency or that business to be doing $1 million in net profit. He also wanted to buy a business that the CEO was not involved in the day-to-day operations, because that meant two things. It meant they had great people and they had great processes. And when I heard that, I'm like, I know what I need to do. I need to systemize this business. I need to take myself out of the day-to-day. I need to surround myself with great people, and we need to be more profitable. And so I went on a mission to do this. Now, I had bought the book Traction. You can see it sitting back there. I bought that in 2014, and I read it and thought, oh, that's really nice. I wish I could put that in place. And then I put it on the shelf next to the rest. But in early 2021, I pulled that book out again, and I said, this is what I need. I need framework. I need structure. I need discipline. I need accountability. I need vision. I need great people. And so I went on a mission to put EOS in place in my business. Now, I struggled at self-implementing. It wasn't something that I was great at. And so I hired a professional EOS implementer, and he came in and he brought structure to our business. Over that next year and a half, we 3x'd our revenue. We 7x'd our profits. We grew from 10 employees to 27. We became a 7-figure marketing agency, culminating in last September in the acquisition of my company. I was purchased. I was acquired. We became desirable, and we had a bunch of recurring revenue, had a handful of clients, had a great team, and I wasn't involved in the day-to-day. So my business became acquired in September. And so that was really my journey into sort of EOS and my EOS journey. I like to say that EOS changed my life, but the truth is EOS saved my life. That stress that I was under, EOS solved that for me. And I don't know, I guess that's why I drank all the EOS Kool-Aid. Right? It just became a part of my life.
That's an awesome story.
Yeah. I love how you were able to structure the business, but it indeed helped you increase your revenue as well and increase your profit margin. Even though that was not your goal was to just make sure you get out of the business and everything. But the byproduct was what most entrepreneurs want, to triple or double the revenue and increase the profits. That was amazing.
Well, I said my original goal was to sell my agency. When I put EOS in place and we started running our business like a real business, I fell in love with it again. I fell in love with the whole thing. I fell in love with building the team. I fell in love with our clients. I fell in love with our products, our service, and I really, truly loved it. So it wasn't all, my intentions weren't to sell. The sale kind of happened on a wild coincidence. I was talking to someone, and they said, "Hey, I know you're doing this EOS thing, and I know you really love it. What are you going to do with your agency?" And they made me an amazing offer, and it just made sense. I probably didn't have to sell my agency. It was running on its own. I simply was the visionary. I sat on the leadership team meetings. The rest of me had pretty much been replaced. It made perfect sense when we did it.
You did mention very important aspect of it as well. When you decided that you're going to structure and exit your business, the people and the process. Let's talk about the people aspect of business. Okay, so what were some of the strategies that you used to hire some amazing people and also to keep them?
So when we talk about people, I want to talk about it in two ways. I want to talk about right people and right seats. Now, right people are people that fit your core values. These are people that you want to surround yourself with. These are people that exemplify the core values of your team, right? These are people that, man, if you could clone them, if you could make 100 of them, you could take over the world. These are just great people. The second part of that is right seats. And having the right person in the right seat means that these people are just exceptional at their job. They have God-given talent and skills and desire, and they want it. They get it. They want it, and they have capacity to do it. And when you can combine those two things, right people and right seats, that's how you know you have great people in your team.
Love that.
So true.
just to touch on added on that, what do you do to build a good culture where you can make sure that once you find these right people in the right seats, just some practical tips on how you build culture to make sure you keep them. Any tips on that?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of different ways to build great culture, and it's all very important. But one of the things that we teach and preach in EOS is that your core values just define who you are, the culture of your company. And if you can surround yourself with a bunch of people who live your core values, if you built your core values together, then your culture just sort of reeks of those core values. And it's people that you want to be around. And so some of the culture things that we do, obviously, is we hire with our core values. We fire with our core values. We review, we recognize, and we reward our teams by living our core values. So some of the things we do is when we give kudos and we give shout outs to our team on a weekly basis from our leadership team down, we tie that kudos to one of our core values. And so I might say, hey, I want to give a shout out to Darshan today for living our core values of delivering excellence. This is the thing he did. If our core value is delivering excellence, then we just tie them together. And so we live and eat and breathe and sleep our core values day in and day out.
All right. Just want to get into EOS and what it's all about. Just to begin with, going back to what you mentioned was, it was business was completely reliant on you, and you are the man, you were doing everything, you are calling the shots. And then it came to a scenario where now the business is run by the team, the revenue has doubled. So a lot has happened in between that since you started implementing EOS. So why EOS and how it's genuinely going to help entrepreneurs?
So EOS is a simple set of practical real world tools designed to help you get more of what you want from your business. There's no magic bullets or silver bullets or magic beans or anything like that. It's real world practical tools just kind of pulled together in a framework that allows you to get more of what you want from your business. And in EOS, honestly, our goal is really to help you to get better at three things: vision, traction, and healthy. Now, vision from the standpoint of we want to get you and your leadership team 100% on the same page with where you're going and how you're going to get there. Traction is about instilling discipline and accountability. So no matter where you look in your company, you see people executing on that vision. And then healthy, this just means making you and your leadership team a more cohesive, functional, fun-loving team that, quite frankly, likes to spend time together. Because if we're honest, sometimes that's not the case. And so obviously EOS was created by Gino Wickman, and Gino Wickman is the author of the book Traction. And it's really designed to help you strengthen, 6 key components of your business. And those 6 key components are obviously your vision component, people component, your data component, your issues component, your process component, and then, of course, the traction component.
Love that. We're going to touch on each of those if you don't mind. So vision. So when you talk about vision, when is a good time to, obviously there are EOS implementers we can bring in and help us with that. So when do we implement the vision? Is it the start of the year? And do you do that with the rest of the management team? Or what are your takes on vision?
Vision is a really, really important part of EOS. Vision is really just ensuring that everybody in our team is aligned and that we're all moving in the same direction. Maybe we're all rowing in the same direction. We all know exactly where this company is going and how it's going to get there. When do you implement vision? I guess like anything else, they say, when's the best time to plant a tree? It's 20 years ago. Second best time is today.
Beautiful. And what are the challenges you find? Obviously every different business is different. There might be a different culture. Some businesses, when you go in there, the culture is not really conducive to bringing in a vision, and the leadership team is all split apart. That's a bit challenging, obviously, even as an implementer for yourself when you come in there. So have you seen any of those scenarios where people really reject that side of things?
Sure. I think there's a lot of pushback when management or leadership brings in discipline and accountability. We've seen a lot of pushback to scorecards and things like that. But the truth is, the right people love scorecarding. The right people love a system that will help themselves become better. I think if somebody's really pushing back against this new framework and system to help us be more productive, they might not be the right person.
100%.
Amazing. Lyn, we know that EOS is a really crucial tool, especially for a business owner, for an entrepreneur. So what do you think maybe 2 or 3 reasons why business owners still don't implement it? What exactly stops them? from making sure that it becomes a part of their company and their culture?
Well, I think there's probably some hesitation that it maybe feels like hard work. I think there's, oh, great. And one of the biggest challenges is if this idea comes from the visionary, then the team is like, oh gosh, here goes Lyn again with another idea. What's he getting us into this time, right? And so what's really great about EOS is we typically do what's called a 90-minute meeting with teams. We bring the leadership team in. We do a 90-minute meeting. You learn about me. I learn about you. I show you all of the EOS tools. And then I walk you through the process of what it's like to implement EOS. And at the end, what we're really trying to determine is this a good fit? Is it the right time for, do you find value in this? Would you find value in EOS and this framework in your business and this tool to help you guys get more of the right stuff done? 2, is this the right time for you guys to implement this? 3, am I the right person? Like, maybe I'm not for everyone. I don't know. Like, I think I'm pretty cool, but I also know 700 other implementers. And so if you think I might not be the right fit, I can certainly introduce you to somebody that might be a better fit for you. And so some of the challenges I think that businesses face is one, to hire someone like me. It's it does affect the bottom line. There is an investment involved in hiring me. You can self-implement. It is, I like to say that it is simple, but not easy. So it's a difficult thing to do. You can do it. The book Traction is 100% the manual for EOS, and you can download all of the EOS tools on EOS Worldwide, all the checklists, all the worksheets, everything's there for free. And so, it could be a financial investment, but it is a big mental investment. It is a 2-year commitment to change the fundamental way that you run your business. And not everybody's up for that.
Lyn, I really love what you mentioned about getting the buy-in from your leadership team. Instead of the business owner just pushing it on the leadership team, saying that, hey, you know what, we're going to implement EOS. There's a lot of resistance. There's a lot of pushback. I love the approach that you told, where you make it as a decision. It's going to be one person as a team. So yeah, that's amazing.
That happened today. I had a visionary call me and say, we're ready for EOS. Let's go. Let's put it on the calendar. And I said, no, we are going to have the 90-minute meeting. We are going to bring your team in and we're going to let them decide if this is a good fit. We are not going to force this down your team's throat. This has to be a decision that this leadership team makes. So it's something we believe in. It's not as effective. There's some real power in having this third party voice come in, and it's almost as if the team gets to make this decision, and then I'm here to help guide you. It isn't the CEO pushing this on us and all of those good things. So I think it's really important that the team be fully committed to this. And the way I kind of think if I have to drag you into EOS, I'm going to have to drag you around in EOS, and I will not do that. Darshan, I will walk with you anywhere, but I will not drag you.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the second part, which is traction and accountability. I love that, the word accountability. That is when it gets real, right? Vision and planning is great, but when accountability sets in, that's when the real interesting stuff happens. So do you want to just quickly mention, Lyn, what do you mean by accountability? And is it daily? Is it weekly, monthly? How does that work with EOS?
Well, there's a couple of pieces. When we talk about the traction component of EOS, there's really 2 tools or disciplines there that we use to help you get better in your traction. And the first is rocks. Now, rocks are your 90-day biggest business priorities. So there's kind of a hierarchy in EOS. Obviously, we set this big 10-year target. It's our big, hairy, audacious goal, and we can all kind of be aligned around that's where we're going as a company. Now, we've got to reverse engineer that down to 3 years. And we say, okay, if we've got to be here in 10, where do we have to be in 3? So we create what's called your 3-year picture. We predict your revenue. We predict your profit. We predict your measurables. And then we actually build the picture of what does this team need to look like just 3 short years from now? How many employees are we going to need? How many account managers are we going to need? How do we need more than one office? What systems do we have to have in place? And we build a really, really clear visual picture of this company 3 years from now. Because if we can all see the same picture, if we can all have that kind of crystallized and clear in our mind, the odds of us actually achieving it are just so much greater. Okay? Then we're going to take that backwards and we're going to bring that down to the ground. We're going to start making it real with a 1-year plan. So if we know this is where we have to be in 3 years, where do we have to be in 1? So we do the same thing. We predict your revenue, your profit, your measurables, and then we set a set of 3 to 7 1-year goals. these are the things that we need to accomplish, or these are the goals that we want to achieve this year. Okay. Now, once we have our 1 year goals, now we're going to step back and we're going to get into a 90-day world. And we're going to say, okay, what do we have to accomplish in the next 90 days? What are the most important things that we need to get done? What are our biggest business priorities for the next 90 days? And those will be our rocks. And we choose 3 to 7 rocks, company rocks for the company. Now, I want you to notice I didn't say 37. I said 3 to 7, right? Because when everything's important, nothing's important. Now, you guys walk out of that meeting 100% clear on our biggest business priorities for the next 90 days. And then you can go out into your business, you can execute with discipline and accountability. Now, how do we hold you accountable, right? The tendency for us is like, we have all these great ideas and we say, yes, we're going to do this thing. And my due date is 3 months from now. What do? We procrastinate. It's human nature. It's human nature to just go, don't have to do anything. Uh-oh, it's starting to get close. Lyn's coming. I better get this stuff done, right? And so we put in what's called a meeting pulse. So every week we have a level 10 meeting, and we call it a level 10 meeting because most people's meetings, if I asked you to rate your meetings on a scale of 1 to 10, you'd probably tell me they're about a 5, sometimes a 4, sometimes a 6. Okay. We're going to create a level 10 meeting with a very specific agenda that's really disciplined. That's really, really a great way to keep us accountable. So now we have a check-in every single week, and we're asking you, is your scorecard, are you meeting your scorecard numbers? Did you hit your numbers? Are your rocks on track or off track? Let's take a look at our to-do list. Did we get the things done that we said we were going to do last week? And then the next part of that meeting, there's 60 minutes of what we call IDS, which is identify, discuss, and solve. And this is where we take the biggest issues that you're facing during the week. We're prioritizing them and we're tackling the most important thing that we solve. And as a team, as a leadership team, we dig down into the root cause of the problem. We find out the real issue. We discuss until we have a great solution, and then we solve. And we do that every single week. And every single week, this is what allows us to feel like we're making progress. This is what allows us to feel like we're moving forward. When Gino Wickman created EOS, he created it because he saw a difference between 2 different companies. The first company, the 95% of those companies out there, their owners and their leadership teams were just working their tails off. They're just spinning their wheels. You've seen them. You've seen all of those companies. We are those companies most of the time, right? And they're dealing with 136 simultaneous issues all the time, right? Now, there's this other 5% of companies that seem to have it together, right? They seem to be making progress. Now, they're still busy and they're still working hard. That's kind of how we're built as entrepreneurs, but they're taking those 136 simultaneous issues every single week and they're solving them. And they're moving on to the different problems the next week. Now, the 95%, they're dealing with those same problems over and over again in the worst case of business deja vu ever, right? And so having a system in place to solve your problems and move from the set of problems you're dealing with this week to the set of problems you should be dealing with next week to the next set of problems the next week is what EOS is all about.
You can just see how a company can really move forward by having these kind of systems in place. Most companies are just operating day-to-day basis, and there's no planning, there is no alignment. They're just hoping for the best, So pretty amazing. And the last part was the healthy. Did you say health? Was it healthy? Did you say the
Healthy.
last part? Yeah, health. So I can feel that's where you mentioned fun-loving team and building culture comes in. Is that correct?
It's a part of it, but the biggest part of team health is actually being open and honest. It's about building a culture that we can all be honest with each other about the challenges and the problems we're facing. It's the culture of being willing to raise our hand and say, hey, we've got a problem. And to realize that the problems that we have in this business are in front of us and not between us. So it's okay. Let's be open. Let's be open to everybody's ideas. Let's be open to everybody's thoughts and feelings before we just decide on our own, right? And then the honest part is, man, if you've got to say it, let's just say it. Let's get it out on the table. We can't solve a problem. If you can't say it, we can't solve it. And so this is really about being honest with each other. We do some team building things. One of the things that we do, there's something called Johari window, and it's a little more complicated than I can get into right now, but it's really about, there's some things that you know about yourself that the rest of the team doesn't know, but there's some things about you that the rest of the team knows that you don't know. Right? We can all see it, but you can't see it. And so we've got to be honest with you. And I got to be able to go, hey, look, there's some things that I really wish you would either start doing or stop doing, right? And this is a productive thing. I want to tell you the qualities that I think are amazing in you. And then I want to be able to tell you, hey, there's some things that I think you need to start doing or stop doing. And we can be honest about that. So team health is really about being able to be open and honest with one another, all for the greater good of the business.
Amazing. I can see that this can play a really important role in, especially the last part that you talked about, the open communication. Most businesses don't practice that. Like, they have a lot of pushback and then they're very hesitant to do it. But those are the 5% of the companies that do follow this open communication thing, they soar like anything. Yeah.
With me as your implementer, I will say something every session that may get me fired. I'm going to push you. I'm going to push you to be better than you thought you were going to ever be. I am going to, I'm telling you, if we're on a Zoom call and I see you roll your eyes, I'm going to ask you if everything's okay. Hey, I saw you roll your eyes there. Is there something you want to say? And we'll talk about it. We'll be open and we'll be honest and we'll bring realness to our meetings.
And that's where I can see the value of an implementer, because the CEO or the management team probably never going to do that because they're so used to the team, and they're probably never going to raise those kind of things. I had a quick question also about scaling up. The scaling up is very big on EOS. So what do you think is the main difference between scaling up, burn harnish, and traction? EOS?
I've read the book Scaling Up, and I looked at that as one of my options. I thought that traction was a better fit for me just because of the size that I was. I felt, and again, I very well could be wrong, and I'll never say anything bad about a competitor, right? That's not who we are as EOS implementers. I implore you to choose an operating system. Whatever operating system you choose, learn that operating system and use it to the best of your ability. My own personal choice was EOS. I just felt like it spoke to me a little more. It felt like it fit my size a little more. Personally felt, and I could be wrong, but I felt like as I read the book, I thought Scaling Up were maybe a little more bigger companies than I was shooting for. And I don't know if that's 100% accurate. That's just my impression.
Nice. So maybe imagine once the companies implement EOS, they go through the 2 years thing. What are the two biggest benefits you're seeing with those companies? All right, like a common theme, like a common pattern you're seeing with those businesses or even those business owners.
Well, I believe obviously our goal as the EOS implementers is to help you get better in all of those 6 key components of your business. And so, I see companies that start out, if we're honest, we're probably only about 20% strong in those 6 key components. I've seen companies go to 85% strong in people, in vision, in data, in traction, in process, and in issues in a year and a half. And so it's quite a difference when you can just build your team's strength over just a period of time. There's only I know this sounds weird, but there's only a handful of people on the planet who can help you go from 20% strong to 80 or 85% strong in your company in just 10 sessions. I'm one of those people.
Massive.
Well, Lyn, I think it's been an awesome chat, and it's so good to know about how EOS is genuinely helping businesses to not just systemize themselves, but also scale and grow. So just before we finish up, where can, we have a lot of entrepreneurs who I'm sure looking to systemize their business. So where do you think they can find you?
I am super easy to find. I have a very unique name. If you search Lyn Askin in any of the search engines, you will find LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm pretty easy to find. But I'm sure in the show notes we can put a link to either eosworldwide.com/Lyn-Askin, or you can go to lynaskin.com/EOS15. You can book a quick 15-minute chat with me about EOS. I do want to say, I know you're on the other side of the world from me, but the time zones actually map out pretty nicely for us. And I have a client that we do EOS with in New Zealand. And so, obviously we're not doing in-person sessions with that client. We're doing virtual sessions, and it's good. It's going well.
Amazing. We will put some links in the notes there. And once again, Lyn, really, really awesome chatting to you. Really appreciate your time. And thank you for coming on today.
It is really my pleasure. I love EOS. Obviously, there's going to be some skeptics out there about the system and things like that. But I love the system. It changed my life. And, quite frankly, it saved my life.
So good to have you here, Lyn. Yeah, there's some really amazing nuggets that you dropped, which so many of our listeners and business owners can relate to so very well. Thanks so much for coming in here.
Yeah, if there's ever anything you guys want to dig into on a deeper level, I'd love to be back and love to speak to your users and help them in their journey to scale.
Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Wow, what awesome chat, Lyn. Thank you. I appreciate that. Really good takeaway.
Thanks for listening to Scale Your Empire. Help spread the wisdom by liking and sharing this podcast. And we'd love to hear your views in the comments. Now, go out there, take action, and elevate your empire.